You're watching Beauty and the Burg live. Produced in association with Arts In, a video platform showcasing artists, arts organizations, and arts and cultural experiences in Pinellas County. Visit creativepinellas.org/artsin to connect with the arts community. Arts In is brought to you by Creative Pinellas. Our mission is to facilitate a vibrant, integrated, collaborative, and sustainable Pinellas County arts community and arts and cultural destination. Creative Pinellas is funded in part by the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners, Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and the State of Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs. Beauty in the Burg is hosted by Cindy Stovall. Aw, so cute. Our show tonight is dedicated to the topic of overcoming challenges. Our guests tonight include actor, director, and the artistic director of the Studio at 620, Bob Devin Jones. Award-winning actor and filmmaker, Cranstan Cumberbatch. And live art by Frederick Rootman Woods. Make sure to post your questions, comments, and bids for Rootman's art on the Creative Pinellas Facebook page. And now, the warm, witty, and welcoming Cindy Stovall.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Beauty and the Burg. This is our 5th episode being produced by Creative Pinellas. They've been doing such an amazing job. I'm so grateful. And before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out to someone who was supposed to be here tonight, but was unable to be, and that's Noel Rockford. I originally got the idea for overcoming obstacles from a story that he told me and wanted to share, and he was not able to make it tonight. To get his story told. But in the meantime, I have 3 really incredible people to share stories with: Bob Devin Jones, Cranstan Cumberbatch, and Frederick Woods, as Lee introduced them. So we're going to get started by introducing the live auction, because we want to let Fred introduce the base of his work, tell us what he's going to do, and allow us to get started on the bidding. Hi, Fred. Welcome to Beauty and the Burg. Unmute yourself, my darling.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Very well. We've worked together for a while, but this is your first appearance on Beauty and the Burg, so welcome.
Thank you.
And I've become a very big fan of your work. And so first of all, I want to start by you introducing the piece that you're going to be working on during the course of the show. Your work is complex, so you kind of had to create a base and a background, and you're going to be working on it during the course of the show. So let's see what you've got for us, Fred.
Okay, I'm going to turn this around so you can see it. See it here. So basically what I need to do is, for me, I have a hard time drawing lines. So I actually use tape to draw lines for the horizon line here. And what I want to do is, because I'm having a lot of contrast colors on here too, to push everything back, you know what I mean? Because right now it's kind of flat, like everything flat. And I appreciate everybody who was commenting and saying, it was beautiful the way it is, but it's going to be spectacular when I'm done.
If you love it now, you're going to really love it, because you're going to add depth and dimension, right?
Right. So I'm going to add some deeper, darker, richer colors to make it really pop, So it's going to be incredible.
I want to show everyone, we have an image for you that depicts some of your other work, Lee. If we can get that image up and show kind of you've got such a beautiful and varied style, and you're self-taught, which I
Yes, I
find
am.
astounding. Self-taught. How did you kind of inspire yourself to do the kind of pieces that you do? I know that they're based in nature, but your bio describes it beautifully. Tell everyone kind of where you get your inspiration.
So when I was younger, when I was growing up, like in middle school, well, elementary school, I always wanted to be the next Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was my role model, and I used to check out all of his books and do all, and I mean, like I would draw from his stuff. Loved him, loved him. Then I got older, you know, I used to do a lot of work, but I always like gave it away to someone's like, hey man, you really need to start selling your stuff. So one of my friends' father owned a restaurant in Gainesville, Florida. And so she booked me. She didn't tell me. She just walked up to me one night and she said, I have you booked for next month. Don't disappoint me. And I was like, wow. So that was the beginning of my career. And so as I went along, I used to do African artwork when I first started, but then I branched out, trying different stuff, abstract, nature. I just wanted to master all of it. And for me, when you're dealing with the language of the universe, it speaks a different language. And I know a lot of artists, stick to one particular style and do one particular subject. For me, I just like doing different ones, how I feel, what comes through me, what channels, especially when I'm dealing with nature or situations, because a lot of times I paint about people's situations or my situation. A lot of my friends, when I was growing up, they always like, when it came to my shows, they always like, is that painting about me?
So you connect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, Fred, is send you off to get started by making this already beautiful piece that you're calling Heaven and Earth. Even more spectacular. We're going to check back with you during the course of the show. And in our next segment with you, we're going to get your story of overcoming and share that with everyone. So what I want everyone to do is make sure, because some people start watch parties and you can't put your bid on a watch party thread. So what we've done is decided to take bids on the messenger aspect of the Creative Pinellas Facebook page. That way there's no confusion. There's no bids on 3 other watch parties. If you want to bid on Heaven and Earth, it's a 16 by 20 acrylic on canvas. Value is $300.
All on canvas.
I'm sorry?
Not acrylic.
Okay, I'm so sorry. And the value is $300, and we're opening the bid at $50. So snag yourself, get in there, get in on the bidding, go to the Creative Pinellas page and place your bid on Messenger. Thanks, Fred. We're going to go send you back to the green room and put you to work, and we'll check back in later. Thank you. And so now for starting our dose of inspiration for the evening is going to be one of everyone's favorites, actor, director, our artistic director at the studio at 620, and just so many other things to all of us who know and love him, Bob Devin Jones. Bob, thank you so much for coming in and agreeing to be part of the show tonight, because you actually came in and saved us when Noel was not able to be with us. So I want to thank you for that.
Certainly.
Also because you have really such an incredible story to tell. And you actually had a list of stories that you could tell. But let's start with the most obvious. Tell us about your experience with COVID and coming through that. And ironically, you are on the board. You're on the board of Pasadena Hospital, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I didn't think I got necessarily preferential treatment, but I was well taken care of at Palms of Pasadena. when I realized, well, the Thursday morning that I went in, I had been tested on Saturday. And then it was Thursday when I got the diagnosis from my doctor, Karen Monroe. And Jamie, my partner, took me down there. And of course, so I knew I had it, but I didn't know how ill I was. And in fact, I found out how really ill I was a month after being discharged. Some friends were talking at the brunch table, and they were saying the first couple of days they had told Jamie it didn't look good. And I don't know, the view from the hospital room or my condition. And it was, and they also used the phrase touch and go, like Monopoly, you know, do not pass go, just. And so, but I didn't know this until, as I said, I'd been discharged for a month. I knew that I had it. I went in, I said goodbye to him after a checkup on the top floor of the parking structure. And my doctor said, you must go to the emergency. And I said, where? And she said, downstairs. So Jamie drove me downstairs. I said, bye, thinking I'd be out in a day or two. But I didn't know that I would be, you know, admitted, and then the next day or that same day, I don't really know the timeline, I was put into ICU.
So that's the touch and go part. I can tell you, as an intensive care nurse of some 35 years, you're very fortunate that you never had to be intubated or put on a ventilator, but you were probably teetering, you know, your oxygen levels were probably precarious at that point. And
they were, that's why she immediately had me go to the emergency. But it's of course good that they didn't tell me how bad I was. And when you're in ICU, you have what I called, well, they call it ICU delirium, because you just, you know, Ryan Seacrest and Kelly Ripa did a Christmas show on my little network TV, but, you know, I imagined all of this. So when they would ask me, what's the time of year? And I said, well, I don't know the date, but I know it's December.
And it was what, April or May or something?
Yeah, it was July. So I was there 9.5 days. I imagine Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest. But because we're all energy and neutrons and morons and atoms, when you have a lot of energy focused in your direction, it can move the needle one way or the other. And so I believe in the efficacy of prayer because it worked for me. And there were dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people doing that particular activity. And
I can tell you from out here, there were probably thousands of people cheering for you, sending Jamie messages, you know, lending their support. I have two questions for you.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
this isn't your first brush with a serious illness, but number one, what was it like? Just what was your visceral response when you first got the diagnosis? When, you know, you first hear the words, you're COVID positive, you need to go to the ER. What was your first, because that much you knew, so you had to have an emotional response to that. What was your feeling?
Well, generally the diagnosis, except for when I had cancer and when I turned 50, I just thought, okay, I'll be here a day or two, and then I'll be home. So I wasn't worried so much as I was relieved that I finally went into hospital, because I had been fatigued for that whole prior week. And also I had lost my sense of taste, but I didn't know that was an actual diagnosis.
Hallmark symptom, yeah.
Ooh, see, so my ignorance kept me somewhat calm. And then since, you know, I've been on the planet now 66 years, I just assume, you know, I'll get it together and I'll move on. That wasn't quite the case, But eventually it was. So that was my first visceral reaction. Oh, so this would take a day or two. In fact, I didn't know I was in there 9.5 days until I was wheeled out of hospital. And I said to Jamie, 2 days? He said, no, 9.5.
Well, like you said, your lack of awareness probably served you well.
Yes.
But then you alluded to the second part of the question. What you had you had a cancer diagnosis and battled that. How are the battles compared, different, you know?
Well, when I had the cancer, I had some laying on of hands of friends at Evelyn Kraft's house, and they were saying, you'll get better. And they put me in a prayer circle. And also when you come out of the OR with the cancer, it was prostate cancer, there were people waiting for me or when I woke up, but you're isolated with the COVID.
That's the terrible part. To me, that's the most draconian thing of all. People talk about draconian measures of shutting down or whatever. To me, that's what's draconian, is that when you're ill, you can't be with your people.
No, and you kind of, because, you know, I had this episode where all of the sounds, all of the ambient sounds were diminishing. And it got quieter and quieter and quieter. And then I thought, oh no, is this it? Because it took, I don't know how long it took, but all of the ambient sounds, just a drop or a distant voice or a footfall or something, just got quieter and quieter. And then when I thought, okay, this is it, there'd be one more sound. And then there wasn't any sound for I don't know how long. And then it started to come back as almost a crescendo, very slowly. And I don't know what that is. I'll extrapolate it sometime around Thanksgiving or Christmas when I write.
It sounds like a metaphor for the arc of your illness, really.
Yeah. You know, I forget, you know, that's why you're so good at being Beauty in the Burg. You were a nurse.
Well, it definitely helps in this instance because, you know, there's so much about these experiences that I've seen, even though it's a novel virus, you know, so many of the symptoms and complications are part of critical care nursing. But how did you know that you were getting better? How, you know, what was the feeling of when you felt like, okay, you went one day from feeling like, is this it? And then there must have been a time when you knew, I think it's going to be okay.
You know, I'd like to think it was something I thought or had a sensation about, but mostly whatever those last couple of days I was in hospital, I was less hallucinating, but I still thought I was at Cedar Sinai. It was not until the last day that they said, where are you? And I said, Palms of Pasadena.
And then you were oriented ×4.
Yeah. So, but I just knew that I had to jar the floor with some kind of indication from them that, you know, that I was getting better or that I was, and so it was like waiting to exhale. But when they said, oh, and they did let me know, how do you say that drug that starts with an R?
Oh, remdesivir.
Remdesivir. He said, I think I can get that for you. In fact, I know I can. And my doctor was Mr. Patel, Dr. Patel, or Muhammad Ali, Dr. Muhammad Ali, whichever one it was. I don't remember which one.
He was great, whoever he was.
Yes, and so, you know, for the first couple of several weeks that I was home, I was elated to have gone through that. All that I could recall, all that I heard later after the fact, because if it wasn't a near-death experience, it was knocking on, if not heaven's door, the other place.
Let's go with heaven.
Okay, we'll go with heaven. So
we've got heaven and earth on Fred's painting, so we'll go with heaven.
Beautiful. And so I do know the efficacy of having friends intend on your welfare. And even though I wasn't quite aware of it while I was in hospital, I was certainly made aware of it post that time. And I just feel so blessed.
Isn't it wonderful to feel loved and cared for and in so many people's thoughts? That must be a wonderful thing.
It is. And you don't want to go around saying, you know, people were thinking about me, but you don't, it's an existential thing. You don't think people think about you when you're not in their presence, or I don't, but clearly.
Me either.
Yeah, so that, and I also think whatever your spirit is doing, you know, if it's illuminated, if it's held up, you know, you feel better. You feel necessary.
So before you do, you prepared a little reading for us. I just want to ask how you're feeling now. How are you doing right now?
I'm back better than before. I do take a nap occasionally.
That's allowed.
That's allowed. You know, we don't know any of our friends that have 66-year-old cars. So
there you go.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Bob. So on behalf of all of us who just think the world of you, it's so great. When I saw you in studio last week, it's just so wonderful to see you looking so well. And I'm so grateful for that, along with everyone who loves you, which the numbers are many. So what have you got for us tonight?
Well, when I had a birthday in August 29th, which is the same birth date as Michael Jackson. So 3 of these books came in the Amazon Post or FedEx. One was delivered to me, which is this one I have. And 2
Eddie Glaude, yes.
And James Baldwin always talks about being a witness, and not only a witness to the things that are happening in your life, but how we also need to be witnesses to each other. And so I had a witness. It was a whole community of people that said, you know, come on back to the shore. The piece that I'm going to read for you doesn't use it quite in that context, but it's important because part of why James Baldwin left America and eventually settled in Paris or France was that he felt menaced in America.
Marian Anderson had the same feeling, didn't she?
Yes, a lot of people do. I remember Lisa Powers telling me right after several, you know, homicides, murders, killings of African Americans of all ages. She said, Bob, I'm worried about you just leaving the house, which you know, not that I just put on a happy face, but, you know, I have felt menaced this year. 2020 started off so beautifully, but it's so flipped. So anyway.
Let's hear some James Baldwin. He's so amazing.
Hopefully, I have to turn on my camera phone. Do we have time for me to do that? Because I can't read the words. So I'm turning on my phone.
Okay.
I will try to be quick. These little cell phones, they are so amazing.
No, Eddie Glaude is one of my favorite pundits, and so that book is absolutely on my reading list.
Well, as I do this, you know, the last time I performed this show called Black Witness that my friend and I wrote, he did most of the writing, Vincent Murphy, I performed it in LA. And the last time I performed it, before I performed it here, and he said, I was with Jimmy when he passed. In fact, I held him, and his spirit is in the room tonight.
How about that? We just showed an image. While you're looking for that, I want to tell everyone, and we'll ask you about it later too when everyone's on, but we just showed an image of the amazing photographic exhibit that's on display at 620 celebrating Herb Snitzer. It's going to be a 3-part.
Yeah, the first month
Go ahead.
him, and the second month is, well, the first month is him, the second month is an invitational, and then the third month is his jazz photography.
Iconic, some of the most iconic images in jazz.
Yes.
So how are you doing on your reading, Bob? Because we can come back to you if we need to.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Can I just stay in the waiting room?
No, we're gonna bring you all out to the waiting room, and you get that ready. We'll bring you back very soon. But I want to go ahead and we'll bring Cranstan on for a few minutes, and then we'll have you do your reading during the Q&A. How's that? Would that work for you? Okay. So let's bring Cranstan Cumberbatch on. He's another just community favorite. He's one of those not even quadruple threat. It's like a 5-time threat. Filmmaker, director, producer, actor, vocalist. He's just done so much. He's an original director of the Sunshine City Film Festival, the executive director of the Tampa Bay Actors Guild, performing arts director of the Pinellas County Job Corps, as well as, all right, we got to talk about this when he comes on. Cranstan, are you there, my darling?
I'm here, Cindy.
Hi, welcome back to Beauty and the Burg. It's so great to have you.
So great to be here.
You know, reading your bio is a little bit head spinning, but the one piece before you tell your story that I want to talk about is this 2006 Olympic team for performing arts, which I didn't even know existed. And we have 7 medals, 1 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, it's the, I didn't believe it either at first.
No idea.
But it's the World Championships of Performing Arts. And it is Olympic competition. So the Sports Olympics happens every 4 years. And every 2 years they were doing the Performing Arts Olympics, and they were only hosting it in California. But 52 countries would come to California and compete in performing arts competition. And I just remember the person who was managing me at the time, at the start of my career professionally, he came to me and he said, "You're going to the Olympics." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." But he said, "Yeah, we're going to," I can't even remember the hotel it was, but it was one of the big grand hotels downtown Clearwater. And they were doing the open auditions for the U.S. Olympic team from this area. And so I didn't believe it. I honestly did not believe it. Even on the plane flying to California, I'm in the U.S. team uniform and everything. I'm still thinking it's a hoax. There's no way this is real. It wasn't until we actually got to the performing arts arena where we were, where everything was happening. And I remember hearing this one person from the Philippines singing, and they were just practicing. And I just, just said, "Hey, you sound awesome." And they looked at me and was like, and they called over their interpreter. And the interpreter had to translate what I said to them. And it was at that moment that I started believing.
It was real. The only personal experience I can relate to that is when I was nominated homecoming queen in high school. It was a hoax as far as I was concerned. It was not real. So there's my very minute relationship to what you must have felt. But there you were winning medals against competitors from 52 other countries.
Yeah, I was just as shocked myself. But
wow, I think that's amazing, and it was so cool to learn that about you, as well as your 2018, which isn't that long ago, Jackie Robinson Breaking Barriers Award from the city and the Rays. So, what an amazing representative for us you are, and there's a lot more accolades beside that, but this is only an hour show, or an hour plus. So. I would love for you to tell us your story. I am not privy to this story, so I'm going to be learning just like the rest of the audience. So let's hear it.
Well, I got my start at the age of 10. I was on this, well, I'm born and raised in St. Petersburg. I'll start there. So born and raised here. And I grew up, you know, with the family sitting around watching television. And I remember always watching shows and seeing kids my age on these shows and, you know, seeing what they're doing. And inside, I was just feeling like, man, I could do that. I could do that. But I never, there weren't very many opportunities for us here in St. Petersburg to be on anything or even have those opportunities to audition. And I lived in the south side of St. Petersburg, so there wasn't much performing arts things coming into our communities outside of the things that was happening in church. That's where pretty much most Blacks got all their performing arts training. So well, that's where I got my training.
I remember another interview we did when we were talking about Web City.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying, you know, that wasn't even a place where African Americans were welcome, or the green benches, which you were in the musical Web City. So there's all kinds of experiences documented, many of which you know about or your family, you know, was personally affected by.
Yeah, and so one day my aunt comes to my mom, and my younger brother, he was kind of the class clown in school at the time. And so trying to find an alternative way for him to exercise that energy, someone from her job saw an article in the newspaper that Channel 10 was doing auditions for a morning kids show that was comparative to the Mickey Mouse Club on Disney. And so she thought that would be cool to get my younger brother into. So long story short, my aunt ended up taking my younger brother to the audition, and she just so happened to be watching us this day together while my parents were working. So my brother is there. The producer comes out, hands him a script with one sentence and says, "Read this line for us." And my brother just didn't take it seriously at all. And I'm looking at this as a chance of a lifetime to be on television. And I'm just in the background, just falling on the floor, rolling, just oohing and ahhing. I just can't take it because he's not taking it seriously at all. He's not reading the lines. And so me moaning and groaning in the back, the producer sees me and says, "You think you can do it better than your brother?" And I was like, "Yeah." So
Hell yeah.
yeah. So she called me up and she said, "All right, here, you try." I did the lines and nailed it. Of course, that brotherly competition inspired me to rise to the occasion. And so, needless to say, my brother, now seeing me outdo him, decided to take it seriously and read the line perfectly the way they wanted. And so the producer was like, "Yep, he's who we want for the show. Let's bring him back." So to my luck, it just so happened that another producer was passing by when I was doing my reading. And they thought that I was the kid that they were bringing back. So when they took my brother back, they was like, "Wait a minute, that's not the guy I saw. Who was the other kid?" And they were like, "It's his brother." So he was like, "Well, bring him too." So we both ended up getting cast on that morning kids show. And pretty much for me, everything just kind of took off from there. I went from being one of the little kids in the background, just screaming, "Yay," whoever was coming on, and to ended up being the topic show host of the entire show.
Unbelievable. That's incredible. I love that story. How long did that last, Cranstan?
So I was on the show for 3 years, and what ended up getting me off of the show was an onset accident. I had the backdrop prop actually fall on my head.
Oh no!
And, yeah, during
I hate
tape,
when that happens.
yeah, during taping. So the show was called This Side Up, and it was a big freight box crate that was my backdrop behind me that said "This Side Up." And I remember it like it was yesterday. They were counting me back in from the 5 count down to the silent 1 to say that we're back on. And no sooner than the producer hit 1, sign fell on my head, and that was that. I went to the floor and they stopped taping.
And that was it.
And that was it. So my parents gave me they gave me an option. It was either sue Channel 10 or I leave the show. So I didn't want any mafia hits or anything like that. So or our dog ended up dead on the front doorstep.
Oh God.
Because we sued
I hate
Channel
when that happens too.
10. Yes. But so yeah, so I opted out to leave the show. And from there, I went into sports and I took my talents to the athletic arena and excelled there. Won all kind of
Naturally.
awards and things of that nature. And but all of my performing arts things then went strictly to church, and that's where I learned pretty much everything I know how to do today without even realizing I was learning how to do those things.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to see you in several productions, and you're excellent. Your acting chops are right on, just so well done. So, and then this element of filmmaking. I mean, you work on stage and in film, and these are just some. This is a collage of some of the films that you've worked on. I haven't seen a few of them, but several I have. So just talk about the overall experience of being a filmmaker, and especially the last two, Art in the City and Agent X, because I think those have moved your filmmaking, even further on. Maybe that's an assumption on my part, but what films like? What's it like being a filmmaker? Is it exciting to produce, write, and act in your own pieces, to have that level of control?
Yeah, for me, it is. I mean, any actor or any person who's trying out for something, even going for a job interview, they'll tell you that it's nerve-wracking. It is truly one of the most, it's one of those things that'll keep you up at night. It'll keep you constantly second guessing and questioning yourself. If you're right for it, and then if you're not right for it, why weren't you right for it? And all of those things. So a lot of actors hate, the audition process. And so having gone through my, my times of no, I one day just woke up and said, wait a minute.
I think I know.
Yeah, I think I know how to do this stuff. But I can always, like Bob in the Studio 620, the answer is always yes. So I can always tell me yes, even when someone else says no. And so, so once I came to that realization, I just started my forward movements on figuring out how to, create my own. And when I found and discovered the power in that, it just kind of took off from there. And the doors just started, opening. And that's how I knew I was moving in the right path. And all of the experience that I had, gained over the years, these things just started opening up in me. And it was like, wow. And I'm shocking myself on how I know to do certain things. And yeah, and so it's been a very rewarding journey thus far. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's a piece of advice now that I've been on doing this show for 6 years. It's a frequent piece of advice I get from performers who love their craft and who have been through the cycle of auditions and all that implies. And it's the same thing they tell me: when you can't find work, you make work.
Yeah.
And you always have the option. And I like the way you prefaced it by saying, I told myself yes. Yeah. And look at where you are. So anyway, you brought a couple of clips with us. I wish, if I'd have known your story, I would have asked for a clip from that morning show, though. I got to tell you.
I want one myself.
All right. So tell us what you're going to show us.
So this is just a reel of some of the movies that I've been in over the years. Some of them are at the onset of my career launch, and some of them are very recent films that have been released within the past few years. And
many of these characters, certainly your character in Art in the City, knows all about overcoming challenges, right?
Absolutely.
So it's reflected in your work and your characters as well.
Thank you.
All right. So let's check it out. I'm going to step aside and Let's see Cranstan Cumberbatch at work.
Sandy, Danny, this is Shelby, the young lady I was interviewing with. She'd like to speak with you all.
Hi, Shelby. Hi, guys. I'm Shelby. I'm a student at USF, majoring in journalism, and I'm trying to do a documentary to raise awareness about homelessness in the area. Would you guys be interested in answering a couple questions?
I don't want to be nobody's project.
Just trying to help and bring awareness.
I said I don't want to be nobody's project!
What were you thinking?
She wasn't teaching.
What? I don't care what she was doing. You can't be throwing hissy fits like that. When you misbehave in school, it makes me and your mom look bad.
Can't they go to school somewhere else?
No! We had to jump through hoops just to get you into this one.
Can't they be homeschooled?
No! You wouldn't have any friends.
I can get friends at church or at basketball.
You don't ever want to go to church, and basketball is only in the winter.
Come on, Daddy. You're the one who told me school is important. I'm not learning anything here.
You know, maybe I should just send you to military school.
No, why can't I just be homeschooled? Mom doesn't work.
It wouldn't be fair to your mother. Now hush up, because you're going to get it when we get home. I don't want to hear another word about it.
Well, what was it like growing up?
I understood I was the oldest, but I was still just a kid.
Maybe she was just busy at the moment. Did you treat your brothers in the same manner?
No. My mom never gave me the same acknowledgement she gave my brothers whenever I did well in school.
Look, I made the star of the week.
That's so nice, sweetie. I'm so proud of you. Oh, it's wonderful.
Look, Ma, look. I made the honor roll.
Oh, that's nice, sweetie. You're supposed to do well in school, aren't you?
I see. Did the relationship between you and your mother ever change? Let me rephrase that. Do you feel that she improved the way she showed you love? Maybe when you got older or your brothers became more independent?
No. Hasn't changed. You know, this really isn't about me, but more so about you and the 12 people you murdered.
Agent Thatcher, why do you think I murdered anyone?
Well, Dr. Willamy, I'm glad you asked. I've been waiting to tell you this.
Well, as much fun as this obviously is for you, do you mind letting me in on this great case you have against me? After all, I have waived my right to an attorney.
I've been keeping track of you all across the country. And I knew something was wrong when we got that tip in St. Paul.
You think because I went to St. Paul that I'm guilty?
I think that because someone fitting your description being seen administering drugs in St. Paul, that you're guilty. That's a great plan. Wow. Yeah, my guys bring you in here. You kill me, and then you kill them on the way out. That's amazing. But it's two problems with that. First problem, no offense, but I don't think you can hurt a fly. And the second problem, you're handcuffed in a chair, in a room with me. I don't do guns and you don't get it.
Don't get what, man? What's up?
This thing goes deeper than you and this two-bit hustling and hacking gig.
Okay, well, ain't never been afraid to get a little dirty.
Yeah, and all this stuff that you got going on is gonna get you and all the people you trying to put on game killed.
Whoa, wait a minute, man. Yo, I thought we were cool. I told you everything I know.
You're making and manufacturing guns, and not just any kind of guns. 3D guns.
Okay, I don't know if that was supposed to be the end or whether we were having a little tech difficulty, but man, first of all, I got to tell you, that woman looked like a murderer to me. She was guilty all the way, so you knew. But how amazing, very intense performances. I believe you. Excellent, excellent stuff. So what's coming up? What's coming up next? I know that you've got Agent X2 in the works.
Yes.
And we have an image of that and an image of your Dream Makers logo. So tell us about these before we move. Let me just tell everyone that we are getting bids on Frederick's picture. We're about to check in on him before we leave this segment. So make sure that you go. We need audience questions. We're going to have a question and answer period in just a little bit. So give us your questions. And also, please give us more bids on the Creative Pinellas Facebook Messenger. Anyway, I'm sorry, Cranstan. Let's talk about Dream Makers.
So Dream Makers Productions, that is our film production company. Myself and Jabbar Edmond, we are the founders of the production company. And we've been going strong ever since 2015 when we joined forces and created our company. And Agent X is one of the first two projects that we started on. We worked on some other things prior together, but as an official company, Agent X and Art in the City are the two films that we first launched together as an official company. And it's been an amazing journey. We were and speaking about overcoming challenges. We had grown our success to a point to where we garnered a partnership with AMC Theaters, and we were actually on a film screening tour with them. And we had started that tour mid-October, and from there we started out in Atlanta, in Buckhead at the Phipps AMC Theater, which is one of the top AMC theaters in the area. And we were able to screen to a sold-out audience there in Atlanta. From there, we were able to then in December be able to screen at Universal Studios City Walk in their AMC there around Christmas time. And that was a beautiful time to even be there. And a time we didn't think we would get the opportunity to be there, but through that relationship, we were able to screen at their AMC during that time.
That's wonderful. So if people go to Dream Makers, and that's makers with a Z, dreammakersproductions.com, they can keep up with the progress. And I'm sorry, I cut off the logo. I realize in that slide of AX2. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. I knew what it was.
You know what it was. But yeah, go to dreammakersproductions.com and you can keep up with all of the progress on AX2 and any of the other films that Cranstan is involved with, along with Jabbar Edmond. So thank you for the story. We're going to come back to you in just a minute with some audience Q&A. But in the meantime, thanks, Cranstan. We need to check in with Frederick Woods because he's got a story to tell. We want to see where he is on his painting, how far we've come. We've gotten some, let's check in with Rootman and see where he's at. What's going on, Fred? There he is. There he is. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
We can't see your face very well, but we can see the painting. There you are. So how's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. I can show you so far what I've done on it. I did a horizon line so that it kind of pops out and worked on this cloud here. So basically what I'm doing is just pushing everything backwards. And so I'm adding some contrast colors down here, to make everything pop. But yeah, it's going on. It's coming on really good.
Well, we've got some bids. It's pretty exciting. I think we might be at the 200 mark. We definitely 100. So I'm gonna get a clarification on that. But there are definitely bids coming in on your beautiful work. I'm so excited about that. But right now, I want to hear your story of overcoming. while people are considering their audience questions and extra bids. What's your story, Fred?
Well, I have several different stories, one about my art, other one about my spiritual journey. But I think the biggest one is about my spiritual journey. When I worked at the hospital, right, for 30 years, that's where I retired from. And I moved here to St. Pete. But when I moved here, I was retired. So I wanted to do my art, but for some strange reason, I kind of got into my spiritual journey, right? So I became a spiritual life coach. I studied, NLP. I started diving into all of these things, and I realized that for me, that what I was looking for, what external, was not what I really needed. What I really needed was to discover who I was. So all of this stuff I was doing just brought me closer and closer to me and who I am and my destination. And so I think because of that, it is transferred into my art. And I wanted to put my spiritual work into my art, but then I realized, because I feel I'm so open, that it allows me to transmit all of my spiritual teaching, learning, all the stuff I want to share with other people into my art. So it's not necessary for me to always use words, but I can use my art to speak for me too. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. When I'm reading your bio, it's just so lovely that when it talks about the intention of your work, it's to pursue life's mysteries and life's movement, to follow them. And your verbiage, even in your bio, sounds like that of a spiritual leader. So well done, you. And it's a good time, we're kind of in the same age range. It's kind of good to figure out who you are for this segment of our lives, so that we can make the most of it and enjoy it and really have a sense of who we are, right?
Right. Because if you don't have a foundation, then you don't have a firm structure. Right. And so because you don't have a firm structure, it's easy to be pushed over or shoved or whatever, you know what I mean? But when you know who you really are, you know what I mean? That is what you're showing people. And that's how you show people you have boundaries,
I got you. So if you wouldn't mind moving the camera over to your beautiful painting, Heaven and Earth, before you finish up and we announce the winner. We're going to keep you in the studio, Frederick, and we're going to bring back Bob and Cranstan for a little bit of Q&A, and I'm going to allow Bob to go ahead and do his reading. We're probably going to run a little bit over after 8 o'clock, but I don't think anybody really minds that. So please, I've got already some questions that I have fielded from friends, so we're ready with those. But if you want to add anything, please make sure that you post it on the Creative Pinellas page, the thread that you're watching this wonderful live. I think we've had some amazing stories from really 3 incredibly talented citizens of our community. So Bob, are you ready? Oh, you're muted. Happens to me all the time.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. All right, the words of James Baldwin.
Well, these are about James Baldwin.
Oh, that's from Eddie. Okay.
Again, James Baldwin's America and its urgent lessons for our own. And this is in a chapter called Witness. In Paris, Baldwin sought the critical distance necessary to reimagine himself apart from the assumptions and stereotypes that saturated American life. He needed the space to see himself and the country differently. However, this wasn't an abstract or academic exercise for him. His very life depended on it. Jimmy Baldwin knew he would not survive accommodating to the way Blacks people were forced to live in this country, being America. Only madness or murder awaited him there. And I chose that paragraph because in certainly post my stay in Palms of Pasadena with the COVID opera is this feeling of menace. And I'm not a doom and gloomer. I am a melancholy person. And sometimes to get some agency on how me, occurs in this country, a country that my ancestors and my parents helped build, I don't like feeling menaced. And for most of my life, I haven't, just recently. So that's the gestalt of the moment. But you know, hearing Cranstan's story and Frederick's stories, particularly Cranstan, since I know you so well, I didn't know all these things about you, certainly not how you began in this business. And it gives me hope, which Michelle and Barack talk about. And hope beats back the monsters of feeling menaced in the country, well, my country. You know, if we got to claim someplace, it's certainly going to be the place where I was born and grew up and got some sense of myself in. So this notion of, and the other piece, Cindy, is that we all need a witness for our journey, not just to applaud it, but to say, you passed here and you made a contribution, hopefully. And it's significant because it touched me or it touched somebody else.
Well, you know, you put your finger exactly on the purpose of this show, is that people that watch it come away knowing something about someone that was on it that they didn't know before, no matter how well they know them. So mission accomplished for this one. Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
All right, we have a couple of questions. The first one is from my editor at St. Pete Life, Marcia Biggs. Hi, Marcia. She wants to know, Cranstan, curious what you might know about film festivals and how they are impacted. Sunscreen, and we know that you're involved, obviously, with Sunshine City Film Festival. Sunscreen this weekend in St. Pete, the challenges and realities for filmmakers.
Well, the challenges are, you know, your audience has been either cut in half or your audience can't come together right now at all. And so having to find another way to get these films out there, to still have a platform for filmmakers to exhibit their work, we had to find another way. So creating and finding ways to stream and go virtual with our film festivals is pretty much the way that most of the film festivals are done right now. And so I know right now we are in planning for our festival coming up in January, and we are planning to be live, small capacity, and everything else will be screened virtually. And again, just figuring out creative ways to program that and still have the same feel. So we're all having to go from being filmmakers and film producers to television producers and figuring out this whole broadcast platform in a short amount of time. And so I know that's what I've been investing a lot of time in, learning the streaming platform and how to become a television broadcaster so that we can continue to exhibit and showcase these films. And I know Sunscreen and all other film festivals around the country and the world are doing the same.
Yeah. Fred, we have a question for you from Lynn Meyer. She wants to know, of all your artwork, which one do you like the best and why? Don't you love those questions? But I ask it too. I always want to know, what's your fave and why? Or do you have one? They're all your children, I know. Are you muted? You might be muted.
Yep. I like all of my artwork because all of them tells a different story. I love telling stories with my artwork. So each one of them has a different story. So it's kind of hard to say I like one more than the other. You know, throughout time and years, I may revisit an art piece because of the fact that I feel like there's another story to be told. So then I always revisit that piece to tell that story. So,
right.
So, yeah.
It's an evolution, really. Well, I expected that you would say that, because I can't imagine an artist not loving, you know, all of their work. They're like children, really, in a way. You get so close to and involved every time. But with that in mind, we're going to ask Bob, is there a favorite thing for you that you've written, something that you have created for the stage, you know, for yourself? Is there a piece that just especially, whenever you do it again, say, this is...
Well, we did a encore presentation of Uncle Ben's A Home-Cooked Negro Narrative. And that was the first piece that I ever wrote on my own. And because I didn't have to totally just imagine where it was going, it took me different places. And I was, so I have a warm spot because I hadn't done it in almost a decade. And I was just surprised at, you know, how it jars the floor. And so if I had to say a favorite, would be the first thing that I wrote. But I just wrote a review for an art show at the MFA, which I called BLM, Black Leisure Matters.
Oh, that's amazing. I love Derek Adams. He's just...
And I've just introduced to him. So the last thing that I wrote just this week for Creative Pinellas, Sheila Cowley, would be that one.
And I wrote a piece about it for DuPont Registry. But for Sheila, for the Arts Coast Journal, I wrote about Creative Clay's 25th anniversary. So, isn't it wonderful to write about the incredible things in this community?
Yes, and Creative Clay was the first board of trustees since moving here that I was ever on. Well, my first one, I hadn't been on a board of trustees really prior to that.
So they're having an anniversary celebration online tomorrow night. I'll give Creative Clay a shout out so we can all tune in. Go to the Creative Clay page to get details on their celebration tomorrow night. They're having silent auction that you can bid on now.
Yes.
And get some cool stuff. But speaking of auction, first of all, I want to thank all three of you for telling your very personal stories and sharing your work with us. It's just been really an incredible experience. So with that in mind, and I'll say another goodbye before you go, but it's time to kind of do the drum roll, because we do have a winner for Fred's Art. We started the bidding at $50, and we do have a bid for $175. So, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. It was just updated. It was just updated to 225. All right. So no more bids. That's the winner. So who was that name for the 225? I'm looking on my chat sheet. And the winner is Congratulations, Fred. Who is your 50? We're doing 50-50, so because we always want artists to get paid, but who is the charitable recipient of the other 50%?
Well, a friend of mine was supposed to let me know, and she hasn't gotten back with me yet. but it's supposed to be it's a local charity here at St. Pete. And I want to do a charity that was local, and that, because, I help out with feed the hungry and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I wanted to stay within St. Pete area.
Well, we thank you for that. The winning bid of $225 comes from Rita Morgan. So congratulations, Rita. We'll have you in touch with Fred about, it's actually $230, not $225. So congratulations, Rita. I know you're going to love your art. We're going to have you be in touch with Fred. And in the meantime, that is going to do it, you guys, for this episode of Beauty in the Burg. I'm going to bring up, I forgot to bring this up, but I've been using this on my show for the six years that I've been on the air, my crawl that says Beauty in the Burg live on the air. So we're going to incorporate this some way, somehow from now on. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Cranstan, thank you for being on, for your beautiful work and your beautiful story.
Thank you.
Bob, as always, I think this is like your 4th time on Beauty in the Burg, and I'm so grateful to you always for giving us such amazing content every single time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And would you ask Frederick if I may give him a ring?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to get in touch with you. And Cranstan too.
There you go.
Well, I know how to get in touch with Cranstan. Look on the marquee.
Thank you, all 3 of you. I'm just so grateful. I really, really am. And thank you for another great show. Everyone out there, we're going to be back on the air on the last Thursday of next month, although there are 5 Thursdays in October, so I'm not sure whether it's going to be the 22nd or the 29th. I will let Lee tell you about that. In any case, we'll be back with another amazing show and learn some more about some of our most favorite people in the community right here on Beauty in the Burg. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.
Right, Cindy?
Thank you.
Bye.
You.
Thanks for watching Beauty in the Burg. Join us for our next show on Thursday, October 22nd, right here on the Creative Pinellas Facebook page. For more information on ArtScene and all of the resources from Creative Pinellas, visit our website, creativepinellas.org.